Good evening, everyone. Welcome to LFC Transfer Room. I'm here tonight, joined by Carter and Anil, to discuss the week that we just had. Well, not really the week that we've had, the week that we're gonna have as well. We're gonna touch on the Brighton game a bit to kind of discuss what happened over the weekend because it's been a pretty crazy weekend in terms of results. Not only for Liverpool, obviously, if you've been watching the Prem. Until then, though, we're gonna get into that a bit later. If you're new around here, please make sure to like, subscribe to the channel, and of course, please leave your thoughts in the comments as well. Well, that's that. We're starting off strong this evening. That's great to hear. Hopefully, you're gonna be as loud as you can. Please throw a cheer for us who can attend, obviously for whatever reason. Please make sure, as I said, to drop your comments there in the chat, whether you're on YouTube or on an X Twitter. I sometimes I say X, but yeah, if you're over on Twitter or YouTube, make sure to drop your comments and kind of get your thoughts on what happened against Brighton, what's gonna happen tomorrow. Anything you want to add to the conversation, it's always welcomed. So yeah, till then, Anil, mate, how's your evening? How are you doing?
I'm okay, man. I'm okay. I mean, I've just come back from swimming. Something new that I've just started. Um, and I'm very happy after the weekend results as well. So all good, yeah.
Indeed, I think for 45 were a bit tougher to watch, but obviously we're going to get into that. Carter, how about you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. Just enjoying being top of the league. We've only lost to a Nottingham Forest super team who are like fourth, which now looking back it is quite impressive. Third, maybe no, it's third. So yeah, it's a great start to the season. So yeah, I think we can all just be quite a good happy mood, to be honest.
Indeed, when you told me at the beginning of the season, if you would have told me that after 10 games we would have lost the game against the top three side, I wouldn't have thought it was going to be Forest, but here we are. Pretty sound, that Forest team now, yeah, aren't they? But yeah, as I said, like, subscribe, drop your comments there in the chat. And Anil, at the weekend, I thought, last Monday when we were doing the stream after the Arsenal game, I was here with Carter as well, and we were talking about how this wasn't necessarily the best performance against Arsenal, and that we were waiting to see something from the team. If that was not the best performance, then the first 45 against Brighton were probably the worst that we've seen this season. Didn't really look that great. It looked pretty bad, to be honest. But somehow we did turn it around, and I think it would have been terribly frustrating had we not done that, because we know what happened and on the 12:30 game, and obviously what happened at Bournemouth as well. I think at halftime when we were seeing the City lost, City were losing, sorry, and the Arsenal were losing as well. I think it was kind of imperative for us to win, and out of nowhere, Anfield got really loud, and we somehow managed to turn that around.
Yeah, yeah. I think that first half in Brighton, it was probably the worst we see this season, even worse than the Nottingham Forest game. Like it was a game of two halves, weren't it? Second half, we went out, we started to play a bit better, but then I think until Estepinian had that little thing with Trent, and then the subs came on, that's when we started to go up another level. The crowd started getting going, and yeah, and definitely I think after the Arsenal game, I was desperate to see us win, and then when I was seeing City losing as well, and then with a half time I was praying like, "Come on, please, we need to win this," because it's so big. Like this could be like one of the results we look back on, and it'd be like, yeah, this is one of the games that won us the league title. So it's massive, and we've got to keep going and keep getting a 3 point because we've got a really hard fixture schedule as well. So just keep taking it one game at a time and go from there.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing now, especially with us being only 10 games in, it's obviously still a long way to go. So I don't necessarily think we should get caught up in a title conversation or something like that. I think it's still early, obviously. And as Muse said here, this, what, last season I was a bit upset with people saying that we've seen this question a lot last season regarding the defense, and in the sense that we were vulnerable a lot of the times. And anytime this question was asked, people were just dismissive and were saying that we've won and that's all that matters, which sure, that's true to some degree, but I absolutely hate not being able to have a conversation about it. My answer to that would be I don't know. Honestly, I'm leaning more towards a no. My view on it is that it's great for us that we've managed to turn it around. It's great that we are winning points in games. Like, for example, against Arsenal, we've won a point. That's okay at the Emirates. We're winning now against Brighton after we've played a pretty bad first 45. That's good. It's good to win games when you're not playing well, with the promise that you're going to get into form a bit later. If that doesn't happen, then it's obviously going to become an issue. And obviously, last season, I think we've had times where even when playing really well, we've lost games. Like the best example for me would be, I don't know if you guys recall that one too much, but the game against Palace at Anfield, in like I think 33rd game week, something like that. We were playing well, missed opportunities pretty much the whole game, conceded a goal, and that was it. And we lost even while playing well. So I do get the concern, Muse. That's kind of my thinking as well. And I was, to be honest, I was really excited, ecstatic to kind of get through the game with a win because of how bad we were in the first half. Um, but yeah, this is a conversation to be had obviously throughout the season, especially now with the games that are coming up. We're going to get into that as well. Carter, it was a win, a lot tougher than probably would have expected, especially after 2-3 days prior we've scored three at their home ground, and we're maybe expecting a bit more open game. We didn't really create a lot in the first, and then we kind of got going in the second, but then still at the end you kind of felt that they did have a few counters, even with us playing a pretty defensive formation.
I think it's quite weird because obviously the personnel might not be the same game to game, but I think when you sort of play back to back, it is quite interesting because a lot of the time, if you've played like it's like even if you play maybe Sunday League or if we play against like Liverpool play against Nottingham Forest in the first 10 games, Nottingham Forest could be in a completely different place if we play them on game week 27. I can't remember when we played them. They could have no wingers fit. They could be missing two centre backs. Something could be going on. The striker could be in a really bad run of form. So it's all about matchups on when you play. And I think us playing them in the cup game first probably was a big help to Brighton playing us on the weekend in the league, because a lot of the players would have seen it, would have actually played against our players, and it would have been fresh in the mind going, oh, I made the mistake there. Oh, they kept pressing me over here. Oh, there's more space if I went onto my left foot. The manager obviously would have, even bigger for him, would have said, this didn't work, this didn't work, this didn't work, this worked, this worked, this worked. This is what we're going to try and do. So I think it was always going to make it difficult for us. And objectively, and I know people want to big up our players, how many top players are playing for Brighton? Like how many of these guys look like they could go on? The Turkish fullback who scored the goal, he can play right back and left back. He could be at a top club soon. Ruta, big boy, great carry the ball. They have all these really exciting players. Like Brighton can cause anyone problems. I think the only issue is the centre backs maybe, and they were missing Dunk. So I think a team like Brighton, especially now Man City, Brighton is someone who I think could give Man City a proper game, like at the moment. So I think we did well. We got away with it. But just to address the sustainability point, I think last season it probably was unsustainable. And I think if we keep, because it's like Anil said, it's like it can't get much worse. It feels like every half we've played recently, it gets worse. Every first half, it's like can't get worse than that first half. Can't get worse than the Chelsea one. Can't get worse than this one. But I think if we keep playing that badly in the first half, we are going to start losing. But I do think Slot is adjusting, and the fact that Slot changes stuff so often and gets it right, I feel like it's just going to happen where Slot makes the right decision from the get-go, and we're just completely dominant. Whereas I think the conceding goals was just how we play. Like it was not going to change.
I think that's obviously the defense has been well, has been a lot better than I think last season. I mean, the sample size is a bit smaller, so that's also fair. But indeed, we look a bit better defensively, even when you look at the numbers as well. It's just that for me now, it looks like I wasn't sure in the beginning of the season if that's the case. Um, it's even more reason for concern now looking at the last few performances. It doesn't like even against Brighton, even at the end of the game when you thought we were playing a bit more defensive when we're trying to defend that result. Obviously, with Slot subbing Nunez off and bringing Endo on was a pretty good signal that the team was going to stay back a bit for the last 10-15. Even so, it felt like we weren't necessarily, you know, how can I put this? Like airtight. It did feel like, you know, the game goes on for 10 more minutes and it's still going to be a pretty unnerving experience for us. Yeah, well, I don't know. It's obviously we're gonna have to wait for more games to kind of take this debate further, I guess. But yeah, at least at the moment things are looking well. I think the kind of the frustrating thing, at least for me, is at the beginning of the season on streams, I've always said that we kind of need to be realistic with the expectations that we have from a new manager, a new head coach. Well, coming to a different league and a new play style play in some sense. It's a lot better than we've expected it to be. So now I'm starting to get my expectations, higher and higher with every game that passes, which I'm not sure it works in our favor. But hopefully, as Daniel said, we're just gonna take one game at a time, hopefully, and just win enough points with this mentality until towards the end. Now, talking about the changes that Slot's been making, as Carter mentioned, Anil, we've seen Timika start against Brighton, and he's played pretty well. I would say that he was one of the best players on the pitch for us, at least, which obviously kind of raises the question, should we start him ahead of Robbo? My view on this is I think Robertson is a better defender, but I'm not sure for how long his legs are still going to have the same energy that they do now, which is kind of what I'm thinking. I think when Simikas came on, even I think in the cup against Brighton as well, he had a pretty good cameo. I think he had a pretty good performance at the weekend as well. It looks like his first choice at the moment. Is that going to keep on happening moving forward?
I think so. I think Simicast, he had a decent-ish game against Brighton. I do hear what you're saying about Robertson being better defensively, because I think Simicast, even though he's fairly solid, I think you can rely on Robertson more. He has that reliability factor about him. Whereas Simicast, maybe that's also because we haven't seen Simicast play week in, week out. But I think recent performances, Simicast has shown that he can perform. And right now, because Robertson's been a bit off recently, like in that Arsenal game when Saka tore him one, I'd rather Simicast carried on playing forward, going starts ahead of Robertson going forward, because Simicast had more quality as well on the ball. Like his set pieces are really good and corners. I think he can offer more going forward. And Robertson, I can't like Robertson. He's not his influence going forward. It's not as good as it used to be. So I think we are missing a bit of that. So with Simicast in the team, we're getting a bit more quality going forward again. So right, if that makes sense. Right now, I'd rather Simicast plays because I think he's offering more. So yeah, I think going forward, Simicast should be starting ahead of Robertson, and it's up to Robertson now to try and fight and get his spot back.
Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to kind of take Timikas out of the team, especially after the weekend. That is amazing news, especially with what's going to the games that we're gonna have in the future as well. I am hoping that we're not gonna see him start against Leverkusen, though. I don't know. It just seems like the scare was a bit too much against Brighton, and I would just hope to not see him on the pitch and hopefully, let him recharge, let him get his fitness back, and see him at the weekend against Villa. Um, it's yeah, it's pretty much what Anil said as well. I feel like with Simika's, you're getting on the offense, at least on the attack, you're getting a bit more pace and obviously better crosses, better delivery. It's just that for me, whenever I think about playing Costas ahead of a top side who have a really good right winger on them one-on-ones, I trust Robertson more now. But see, it's just like you're not gonna have that mix right now with having Simikas play in the attack and then Robertson in defense, obviously. So that's how it is. Carter, I know you've been talking quite a lot about a left back or a left center back or someone who's versatile and can play both in the summer as well. It does look like we're going to have to send someone there in the coming transfer windows. For now, when you look at the options that we have, oh, maybe you can add the cheeky third option there from someone else in the team. Who are you going to play?
I think it's really difficult because I think a lot of the time we look at like perception of like what people have done before them right now. And I'd kind of, from what you're saying, I kind of look at Robertson as Kyle Walker, where if you were saying straight foot race, Robertson versus, I know Saka put him on his arse or whatever, but you'd back Robertson over Costas. But I feel like Robbo, like Kyle Walker, sometimes they gamble too much or they back themselves too much, and sometimes they jump for balls they shouldn't go for. They leave too much space to sort of recover. So I actually think it just depends what you want. I think if we were playing a really good offensive team, I'd just play Joe Gomez. Like, I think if your fullback's not going to be doing that much attacking and they're going to ask him to sit a bit deeper than Trent, I'd just play Gomez. It's not perfect because he's not left-footed, so it's a bit more, he can't maybe play down the line as much. But my big thing is I never think Robertson and Diaz clicked. I never think it was like Mane and Diaz. I never think they really got that relationship. Like, you'd always feel like they were linking up. Whereas now it always feels like Diaz kind of does a bit more individual stuff, or maybe Salah's playing him a ball. It doesn't really feel like they have that dynamic. But I really actually think Costas, as well as maybe being a bit positionally better, I think he gives us way more control. Like, I think the fact that he can underlap and overlap and sort of almost step into midfield a bit more helps us sort of control games a bit better. I know obviously he didn't against Brighton, but I actually think he has a lot more like strings to his bow of like he can sort of invert, so maybe and that lets Mac get a bit further forward if he's coming into Mac's zone and Mac sort of goes a bit further up and joins the front three. And so I think Costas has got a chance. But I think, yeah, we do definitely need to be looking at a left back or like a left foot centre back to just take us up another level. Because I think you look at how we look right now, and I think there are 2 or 3 positions where you go, oof, we could make a jump back up to being a 92, 93, 94, 95 point team. And it is, and once a signing like a left back might be 2 points, but it's 2 more points against Man City or Arsenal, and we're going to need those 2 more points.
Yeah, I think when I said about when I mentioned the cheeky third option, that's what I was thinking as well. Against Arsenal, when we saw the performance from Robbo, I think we were discussing it in the chat as well, and we were hoping to see Joe Gomez on the left, which as Miu said as here as well, he does play the left back role or the melee role exceptionally well, and he has been ever since last season. It's like, for me, that kind of just obviously complicates things in terms of rotation, because if you're going to have, let's say, Bradley missing or Trent, God forbid, missing for a period of time, what are you going to do? Because then you're going to be left with one right back, and then Gomez can obviously play center back, can play, well, right back, but you're going to have to see if you're going to play him there. You obviously can play him in any of the other positions. So it complicates matters, which is why, in the summer I was thinking, I was saying that we are okay at left back, which apparently not so sure at the moment. I was just saying that we need a center back, which obviously hasn't happened. So we're gonna have to wait for more reinforcements in the future transfer windows. It's I've seen people talk about us going for players in the winter. I would not expect any signings, just because of the way we've been used to doing things in the last few seasons. But obviously, that's a worry for probably next month, let's say, closer to Christmas when you can think about more presents. But until then, obviously, we're gonna have a Champions League game tomorrow, so let's get into the point of the stream rather, because this is a match preview. Um, Indeed, indeed. Welcome, Luca. Welcome to everyone. As well as I said at the beginning of the stream, please make sure to drop your comments there in the chat. So Anil, it's going to be Xabi Alonso coming to Anfield tomorrow. Not in the way we were expecting him to come to Anfield in the summer. He's obviously still managing the side that won Bundesliga last year, that almost went unbeaten for the season, really. And well, it is going to be a pretty tough game, but just by looking at it, I'd feel slightly confident, especially with us playing in Anfield.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'd say the same because it is Anfield. Leverkusen, they look a bit off as well in recent form in the Bundesliga. So I'm confident. I'm confident we will get the result, even if we do make a few changes. I just think for me, with how hard the fixture schedule is, with Leverkusen midweek and then we've got Villa on Saturday. Obviously, I would love to win both games, but I'll take a point at Leverkusen and then a win against Villa. I just think the Villa game is more important. They make sure we get a 3 point, and we are in a good position as well in the Champions League. We've still got like another 4 games after to go, and we won 3 out of 3 so far. So yeah, I'd love a win, but I'll be okay with the point as well. Because we can't have it all perfect. Can't be winning like can't have every game we're winning and stuff. We are going to slip up eventually. So yeah, but I think we're more than capable. I would like to see a few changes. I think I'll do Gomez and Van Dijk just because Konate he did pick up a little knock on the weekend, so I wouldn't play him until next weekend, and then I'd maybe play Robertson left back. I think about playing Jones, maybe even Endo, and then in the front three I'll do Diaz, Gakpo, and Salah. So I wouldn't like change the team too much, just like a couple of changes that could do the job.
Yeah, what's interesting is that obviously we're gonna have to see some rotation for Darwin Nunez as well because he cannot play every single game. He cannot start every single game rather. So yeah, with Cody being used as a striker, I think that's pretty much the only option that you're gonna have at the moment. So yeah, obviously, and as you were saying, I think if you were to say that we're gonna draw a game and win the other one, I think that's the option that any of us would be choosing. I think the win against Leipzig helped us out massively because now obviously with 3 wins out of 3, it's obviously the perfect start ahead of 2 very complicated games, and I feel against Leverkusen and Madrid, obviously, which that seems to be a pretty boogie side for us in the past few years. Fun fact: imagine life under Klopp without Madrid sides. It would have been so much different, wouldn't it? So yeah, complicated games, obviously coming in the Champions League, not only, but that's why I think I was really happy to see the Konate news as well. Carter, it is going to be Leverkusen at home at Anfield. Obviously, it just had to be after what happened in the summer. I think at the draws, when the draw was made, I think we were all expecting it to happen. It did. It's going to be in Anfield, obviously. In terms of rotation, in terms of results, on what you're expecting from the game, who would you start? Who would you rest?
I think one of the difficult ones is Endo. But I think maybe because Leverkusen are quite good, I'd lean to not starting him. For me, I don't know if you guys watched it, but when Atalanta played Leverkusen, I was like, oh my God. Like it was many, like Atalanta played very well against us, but they absolutely bullied the Leverkusen team, like completely physically. It was men against boys. It was unbelievable. So I think I would go our sort of lineup that I think I would play against the best teams. I think I go Grav, Jones, and Szoboszlai. I think that gives you the most legs, the most energy. I think we'd absolutely swallow up the midfield. I think I would give Trent a rest. I think I'd go Bradley. I think Bradley can play very intensely and like press, and you can just get him running. I think a difficult one is that I don't want to see Quansah play against their attack because I think he's low on confidence. He's not playing very well. Like no matter what people say, yes, he's good, but I think we did put him on a bit of a pedestal. Like I always said that young players are always gonna go backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. Like it's not some players like 1 in a million is completely linear. Like Yamal has gone, but like most players are up and down. You look at Salah was up, down, up, down, up, down. Like it's gonna just these things are gonna happen. So I think I'd go Gomez and Van Dijk. I think Robertson. I think he makes sense. I think I'd go Kelleher. I think those three, and I think I'd go Salah, Nunes, and Diaz. And I think you just get Nunes and Diaz to absolutely run. And objectively, I think Nunes actually can. I don't think he's played as much football over the last 2 years as we think he has. Like I know he's got injury issues, but I think we can take this risk until the November break, and you hope Jota's back, and you hope Chiesa's back. I think we can just squeeze enough out of him till that point, and once we get to then, we can then scale him back a bit. So I think it's worth. And if Nunes gets injured, Gakpo, Salah, Diaz are all relatively quite fit most of the time. Like the only thing will be they're not going to have many 30 minutes coming off. Like they're going to be playing a lot of minutes if Nunes gets injured. But I think we have enough to get us over that line. I think just go Nunes, Diaz, Salah, and hope you make it through to the international break unscathed.
I think a worry for me, obviously I do agree. I think we should start Bradley tomorrow as well. A worry for me though, and I'm not sure if you lads agree, would be his defensive start to the season. Let's put it that way. I think when I looked at it, I think in a lot of moments I saw Bradley in terms of positioning and in terms of, let's say, maturity, I'd say. When having to wait for a player, I think he was very decisive a lot of times, and it kind of cost us some chances conceded. So Anil, obviously, last season as well, I think we were all taken aback by Kwanzaa and Bradley. But as Carter said, I think we kind of have to learn to moderate the expectations that we have from players like this, because obviously with them being so young and thrown into this such high intensity football, I think you can kind of expect them to not be consistent. And so my point is, this season, from what I've seen until now, I'd be slightly worried to play Bradley against Champions League opposition, especially against someone like Leverkusen.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm the same as you. So far this season, from when I watched Bradley, I haven't been completely convinced. But as you said, he is young. So consistency will be something that will come as he gets older and develops his game. And like another thing with Bradley is when he broke through, he didn't just do well. He fucking blew up. Scoring against Chelsea, and the way he was like up and down with energy and stuff. Like he was on a different level. Like he weren't just playing well, he was playing like brilliant. So I think that kind of gave us some false expectations on Bradley a little bit. But again, I wouldn't be surprised because like he's a young player, so consistency levels he ain't always going to be like on the same level. Some games you're going to be like really good, and some games he might be a bit off. So I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow he plays and he plays really well. So and also I think another thing we need to remember as well, Bradley has been playing in the cup games, ain't he? So he has been playing with our best team. He's been playing with players being rotated in, so that makes it harder for Bradley as well. Whereas last season he was playing with more of a first team level with like Van Dijk and etc. So I think if he does play against Leverkusen, I'm trying to think positively. I think Bradley, he can still do a good job, and I wouldn't be surprised if he puts in a good performance. But I do hear what you're saying. Like so far, from what I've seen, I haven't been completely impressed with him, but I think he's fine. I think he's definitely fine. He can perform if we do play him.
Fair enough. Carter, I think with you mentioning obviously the Trent rest, I think it's only fair to ask you the same question. Would you trust Bradley now, from what you've seen up until the season, to play against opposition like that?
I think I do. I definitely do. I think I think for me, because it's kind of the two guys who are in the same situation. They played a lot with like Quansah right centre back, Bradley right back at the end of last season, and maybe part of that as well as sort of Anil mentioned. They had quite a good relationship. I think that they both understood each other quite well. Whereas now they've kind of flipped in, and now it might be Bradley with Konate all the time, and Quansah's not really playing. I think Bradley for me is a lot further on, and I think yes, I get he maybe hasn't played as well, but I think when you kind of look at him, I think apart from bulking up, which sometimes can make people a bit stiffer for defending like wingers, I think he's actually quite set. Like I think he has that bit of bite. I think he's willing to put himself about. I think he's quick. I think he plays with intensity. I think the positioning thing, I can understand that, but I think if he just needs to be able to pick up minutes for Trent. Like Trent, I think there's no chance Trent's not going to play against Real Madrid. He'll play Madrid and City because you can't justify Trent not playing. Like to him playing in those games, and Slot will want to win both of those games. But I think Bradley's got to be trusted in some level to come in and play these games, and he's played great in some big games. So I think I trust Bradley. I don't have really an issue with Bradley playing. But I would just like to say, whilst we're on this, I actually think Trent. I think that the hard thing is because Trent's been so good defensively now this season, like I think they're both kind of in the same spot where they can both defend. It's just sometimes for Trent it's application, and I think for almost like Calvin Ramsey, I think for the other one it's just about consistency and age and run of games and partnerships and all of that kind of thing.
Well, being on the topic of Champions League and obviously the fixtures that we're going to play in the future, I was just taking a quick peek at the schedule and on what's next for us. Obviously, Leverkusen, Villa, and then international break. But what's after was kind of more what was worrying me. We're going to have a pretty tough run of games, and not only it being tough, but what worries me is the fact that it's going to be every 2-3 games. Every 2-3 days, sorry, it's going to be another game. And the schedule is going after the international break. We're obviously going to have Southampton away. 2 days later, we're going to play home against Madrid. 2 days later, it's going to be, or 3 days later, sorry, it's going to be City. 3 days later, Newcastle. 3 days later, Goodison Park against Everton, which at the moment might seem like a pretty, not necessarily a tough fixture, but last season it didn't necessarily seem one either. And then obviously again every 2-3 days, Champions League, Girona at home against Fulham in the league. It's like Anil, it looks like every 2-3 days after the international break there's going to be a new game, and a pretty tough one at that. So we're pretty much going to need everyone to to be on top of their game and to obviously be able to rotate. Now with me taking a look at the schedule, I think this month, like for me at the end of December, I think we're gonna have a bit more clarity with what exactly are we going to challenge for this season. So my question to you would be, how would you view the next month, the month that's coming, December, after the international break, obviously, and then the importance of rotation now?
I think it's really difficult. I think the Christmas period is never easy because there's always games coming thick and fast. But it doesn't help when the fixtures are like Man City and like Newcastle away and Everton away, so it makes it a lot more difficult. I'll be looking at the fixture list like constantly. I feel like I've been looking at Man City fixture all the time, Arsenal fixture, Liverpool fixture, just stressing out about it. They've seen what game you got coming up, but I think, as I said before, we have to look at it one game at a time. So yeah, I think after Southampton away, and the games are then going every 3 days, ain't they? So I think that's when we need to start thinking, okay, which team do we need Bradley for? Which game we might need Endo for? How are we best going to utilize our squad? So rotation definitely important, and I think Slot so far he hasn't really rotated much, but I'm hoping because of how heavy the fixture is, and I think Slot will probably understand that he'll need to, and I hope he does, because it's going to be too much, I reckon, to keep playing the same type of lineup every week and every few days. It will be too much. So I think this is the time now to utilize our squad. This is what we have a squad for. I think we've got a really good squad. I'm really happy with it. So I I think we've definitely got the squad to deal with it. And as you said, this is the big test now. So if we come out of after this period still top or a few points off top, then that's really good for me. And I'll be very happy.
Yeah, same here. I'm thinking. I think for the last few seasons, from what I can remember, this December time has been pretty, has been make or break for us, really. I look at, I remember a lot of the times this was, for some reason, around December, January was the time that we usually drop a few points that would maybe, make things a bit harder, and then obviously, make us miss out on being top during Christmas or New Year or whatever. So I do feel like, looking at that, it's obviously a bit overwhelming, especially, looking and thinking you're going to play Madrid City and then you're going to play Newcastle and Everton both away, which are not ideal, obviously. But yeah, I'm guessing that's just the way it is. I think the schedule can work that way during the season at times, and so you're going to have to be ready for it. Carter, obviously we've been now looking at. I think that we remember last season as well when we had a time like this, and I think I just remembered that there was a bad omen because I was discussing this obsessively for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then we did end up dropping a lot of points during this run. So maybe, hopefully, not again this season. But how do you see this December, and do you think that one or two injuries could mean that it's going to be a bit tougher to compete?
I think we're in a really interesting position at the moment. Like I think probably I was having this like sort of debate with one of my friends. It's like, I think Chelsea objectively have the best squad in the league. Like no matter what people want to say, Chelsea have about 35 players. No matter what, they have 35 players. They have the best squad. They have the most. They have 4 right backs. They have 4 left backs. They have 8 right wingers. They have 6 left wingers. They have 2. Actually, only have 2 strikers. But they have loads of players in every position. But when you look at us, you go, we've got one actual 6 in Endo. We've got Gravenberch who's playing a 6. We've got Curtis Jones. We've got Tyler Morton, who might not be at the level that the manager wants. I think we have Elliot, who can kind of only really play the 10, but he doesn't really look like he's going to be able to play with the physicality that Slot wants from the 10. So then does he play right wing where he doesn't really have the pace to play right? So I think we've got a lot of players. I think it's all about the matchups and the balance and the making sure everyone works. Like if Nunes is up front, I think Elliot can play right wing. But if Jota's up front, I don't think Elliot works the right wing. So I think it's going to be. I think Chiesa actually. I know people are a bit. Oh, what's happening?
How'd you say that?
Oh, Chiesa. What say again? Chiesa.
Yeah.
Chiesa. Chiesa is a big coup because he can play left wing, he can play right wing, he can play striker, he can play off the striker. So I actually think he's a massive get for us. Like I think we could see like a big game I always really liked was when Salah, the ball came to Salah and he spun Cancelo and we were I think we were 4-4-2. I actually think if things get a bit tight until January, once Elliot comes back, I think we could see Elliot as the right midfielder. I think we could see Salah off Nunes, and we could see a Diaz on the left or a Soboslai on the left, and sort of go 4-4-2 in a lot of games because we kind of have done elements of that. So I think once everyone's back, I think we'll be completely fine. It's just this bit is going to be like, oh, is Morton good enough to get 45 minutes versus this team? Is this guy good enough? Is Endo good enough to play a game against? Are we all right to play Southampton with Endo? We should be, but you never know. Like stuff happens. Like eventually, Southampton are going to get 1 or 2 dodgy points or results where they maybe shouldn't. So I think it is interesting, and I think as you kind of said, we probably won't sign anyone in January. The amount of times we come so close, I really hope we do if there's an opportunity there, because the amount of times you lost by 1 point, if you go, oh, we could have signed a winger then and we probably would have won the league. Or if we sign another centre-back, we probably win the league. Pardon me. So I really hope... I think we can be all right, but I think 1 or 2 signings, or 1 signing in Jan would be big. But I think, we just need to get through to November for me, and then we got a big enough squad.
Yeah, fair enough. I do well. I was thinking about the same thing. Obviously, a few times in the last seasons, it does look like in a lot of moments, I think we were so close to winning. Well, not only the league, but other the Champions League as well in the 21-22 season. When you look at it, maybe we could have competed more in the 2021 season, the season after we won the league. Had we, if we would have had a bit of stronger squad, let's say. I remember that season in December, I think we were top by 4 points or something like that. So we did have a pretty good start, but then obviously the injuries started to pile up, and then that's kind of what happened with that season. It does look like, at a lot of the times we could have, well, obviously you have no guarantees, but it looks like we could have done better with maybe one, two, three more, one, two, three players there in the squad. Um, yeah, pretty crazy indeed. But what's absolutely insane to me is them being above Arsenal. I think that's just Chris Wood, Nuno Espirito Santos, and that underrated defense that Forest have. I think for me, that's kind of a reason for their success as well. Anything can happen in the Premier League. Hopefully, is going to happen again. As Carter said, I think Brighton. I do agree. I think Brighton can, cause City some problems, especially with the state that City are in right now. Who knows? We're gonna have to wait and see. Hopefully, we're gonna be close to replicating what Spurs did at home against Villa at the weekend as well. Well, until then, until tomorrow, I think we're gonna just end the stream here. I'm gonna thank Carter and Neil a lot for being here tonight. And thanks, obviously, to everyone in the chat. Thanks to Muse for being with us as always. Thanks to everyone who tuned in. Well, until then, we're going to see you tomorrow for the post-match stream. I think that's going to be at 10 p.m. UK time. Until then, up the Reds.